Every single flight school, there was something sketchy that happened. I heard the motor explode. So the motor explodes. I'm still holding the gas down because I'm going off the lift and landed. You can see all that smoke come out the back.
What is freestyle prerunning?
It's basically what I love to do, which is
It's story time. We're here with the All-American sender and head professor of flight school, Mr. Paul Fisher. How you doing?
doing great. Motors out of the truck from Speed Metal. So
Yes, I
that's
see that.
Happy.
Yeah, what happened? What's going on? Speed metal's cool?
Speed Metal was awesome. The motor has been tired for probably a year. I remember last Speed Metal, we were going through the desert course and we were low on oil pressure and last year.
Yeah.
And we kind of shut it down, let it rest, and then we'd do a couple more laps and let it rest. And we didn't want to like overheat and that sort of thing. So it's seen some miles. It's 10,000 miles and 4 years of abuse. And so we got out into the desert course again, and we were trying to keep it easy because I'm like, I just want to get into the infield and hit the jumps. Like desert course is fun, but my motor's blowing up.
Yeah.
I could tell. And so I'm like, it's time to take it back a notch, just get through the desert course because they wouldn't let us go straight to the infield and hit the jump. So they're like, that's not an option. You have to go through the desert course. And I'm like, okay. So we do the desert course, like limping it around, looking, everybody's probably shooting like, what is Paul doing? And then come out onto the out into the thrash track area. And this is the 1 o'clock, I think the 1 o'clock wannabe TT class. Come out of the thrash track, launch the jump first thing. Nick's in the passenger seat looking at the oil pressure the whole time. And he's like, we came drifting into the thrash track at 19 PSI in the oil pressure.
Oh, no.
Hit the jump, come around the corner, did another lap, and it was just going from 19 to 17 to 16, and we're just like, oh my God. And then, so we get to like the third lap, and we go over one of the jumps, and we hear something let loose in the engine, but I think it was like a spun bearing or something. And then the oil pressure was then still kind of slowly going down. We were at like 10, and then as we're pulling off, it's at like 5 and 4. Oh. And then I pull into my camp, and it was still running at that time. It's just like almost zero oil pressure, and we pulled off and shut it off, and we're like, we're done. The motor's toast. Like it's making a weird noise. It's got issues, and so we were done. And then there was like 2 more sessions after that, and I'm sitting in a camp chair, and I'm on the sidelines watching everybody do their thing, and I'm like, this is lame. Like I'm just sitting here. I'm like, this sucks because like it only happens once a year. It's a really good event. Like it's fun to go out and hit those jumps. And these jumps this year, I actually went out and did some measuring with Sean Fogel, the track builder, and we did some angles and did some flight school stuff on it.
Nice.
And some of the angles were perfect. I was like, these speeds are going to be so good. And so the jumps were really good this year. They didn't throw you sideways, nothing. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
But just sitting there stewing, kind of like, I can't believe I'm not out there. And then I'm like, I mean, when I shut it off, it was running. So I'm like, so 4 hours goes by. I didn't plan on starting the truck at all. I was like, I'm done. Like the motor's done. I told everybody the motor was done. I went around and I was like, my motor's blown. Like everybody's like, oh, that sucks. And then after 4 hours of sitting there, I'm like on my phone and I text Nick. Nick's the guy that works on my truck. I text him, I go, 2 quarts in a dream. And he goes, I'm in Kevin's truck right now. We're doing some laps, or we're about to do some laps. And he's like, send it if you want to. And I'm like, all right. So I go over there. I'm like, I'm just going to start it and see what the oil pressure is. So it had a chance to get all the way cooled down. Started up, blew up the throttle a couple times. Oil pressure went to 30. I'm like, didn't sound too bad. I was like giving it gas, and I was like, it's not perfect, but it's not, it still runs.
Yeah.
So this is like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, getting close to the long jump competition. And actually before the thing, I wasn't even going to do the long jump competition either, because I did the long jump competition in Midwest, and I went a little too hard and scared myself a little bit on the long jump in Midwest. I'm like, these competitions really, it doesn't, like someone's always willing to go and yard sale their truck.
Yeah.
And so why compete against someone who doesn't have the same mentality as I do? I'm not willing to yard sale. So like, It's like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These competitions. So, but then I was like, all right. And then I'm like 2 quarts in a dream, and he's like, send it. And so start the truck, go to 30. I'm like, I dump another quart in there. It goes to 40. I'm like, all right. So I take off out of my camp and drive it out, and people are just staring, like, because they already knew my motor was blown. Like, some people, like, the word had gotten around that I blew my motor up.
Yeah.
And people are like, how is he driving? The motor's blown up. And I could just tell the looks on their face when I was driving out of camp. And then I pull all the way around, and there was another Ranger that was broken down in a berm, and they were just trying to get ready for the long jump competition. So I had to sit out there. Then I got out to position to run for the long jump, and I had to sit out there for like an hour and just wait. No, and I shut my motor off. I'm like, I don't want to put any extra heat in it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this, competition. That's it. So I'm sitting out there for like an hour just thinking, like, what if my motor blows up, like, before the lip? Like, I'm talking to Ruslan because he was out there. I'm like, there's really only a small window that could be disastrous. Like, if it blows up before that window, I can hit the brakes and pull off before I hit the jump. If it blows up after that window, I can probably coast the lip and be fine because I know my truck. And, like, I've coasted lips before. I've had my pedal go out on lips and stuff. So I know it could probably handle it. But there's a small window where if it blows up and then I don't have a chance to brake, and then also I don't have enough momentum, I'm going to case it. And then who knows what could happen.
Real bad.
So I was just, like, kind of gut-wrenched out there, just sitting by myself and just like, all right, I guess I'm doing this, And then, so yeah, I hit the first jump. You could tell the motor's just hating life. And they had the KMC flags set up, and they said, you got to start from the flags. I didn't have enough horsepower to, like, get anywhere from there. So I was like, I'm just going to break the rules on that because I can't start from the flags and, like, just hold it down and get anywhere. So I started to run up a little further back. So the second one, I got a pretty good jump off, probably like 150, 160 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the winning jump was like 190. But I knew I couldn't, I don't know. The third one, I just held it. And then right before the lip, I heard the motor explode. And then so the motor explodes. I'm still holding the gas down because I'm going off the lip. It's not doing anything. And I coasted the lip and landed. And then you can see all that smoke come out the back. But the scary thing was, if the motor was at temp or, like, above temp, all that smoke would have been flames because the oil blew out the sides of the engine.
Oh, yeah.
And then it went underneath the truck into the exhaust system, like along the exhaust system.
Yeah.
And if that exhaust was, like, at high temp, it probably would have caught on fire. Instead of all that white smoke, you would have saw, like, flames probably. Would have been gnarly.
Man.
But I knew the truck was cooled down enough to where it wasn't going to do that. And then, I blew 2 holes out of the side of my block and leaked all the oil on the track and had to get towed off. But it's kind of a gnarly decision to make. I don't know how many people could sit out there and just, like, knowing their motor's, like, toast and just hold it and see what happens. But I had faith in the truck. Like, I've coasted lips before, and there was a small chance that I would have, like, a big case and, like, maybe a buck and then, go over or something like that. That would have been worst case scenario. But I felt like the chances of that were kind of small. I mean, from my perspective, but other people might say that it was a real dumb thing to do. But I don't know. I did it for the fans, I guess.
It's entertainment, man. Yeah.
So that's what happened at Speed Metal. Long story.
It feels like it fits the vibe of that event. You did it. It was metal.
Yeah, it was definitely. I shot some metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're in talks of a new motor and stuff like that. And trust me, I got piles of DMs talking about what I needed to put in it. So
I'm sure.
We're in talks with a motor builder right now, and we'll probably release that information a little bit later. We're not even there yet. So.
Okay. All right. So you're prepping for season 2 of flight school, or already shot season 2 of flight school?
I wish. We got to about April of this year, or maybe March, and I was like, Dweezy, we have to just get some stuff on the calendar. Doug Jantz is the producer for flight school. And I told him we've got to at least get some dates, like, on the calendar, regardless of whether or not they're tentative or whatever they are. But we need to, like, build out at least 5 episodes between now and when it gets too hot.
Yeah.
Because once it gets too hot, we can't do anything. We're screwed. We've already filmed flight school in the heat. Flight school 4 was in the heat in Ocotillo Wells, and we got it done, but it wasn't the best.
It's not the
conditions.
Best. No. And I guess for anybody who doesn't know, what is flight school?
Flight school is kind of a creation that I came up with a couple years ago in my head. And then obviously you need some people that are really down because it's grinding, it's difficult to do. There's a lot of logistics involved. You could have mechanical issues with the truck. You got filming angles issues, you got weather to deal with, you got driving there, you got money, you have all of these moving parts, and
Yeah.
they all have to fit. And we kind of like with flight school, we jumped off a cliff right away. We're just like, we're doing it.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess it really hit us hard. Me and Doug were at Supercross in Anaheim. I think it was a year and a half ago. We were at Supercross, and we're both just watching Supercross, and we're like looking at the big screen. There was like it's between heats or whatever. Look up at the big screen. They got a commercial for mountain biking, and someone's tearing it up on like Red Bull Rampage, and then there'll be like a snowboarding edit up on the big screen, and we're like, Doug looks at me and goes, "Where's all the trucks, dude?" And I'm like, "Yeah, where is all the trucks? Like, why aren't pre-runners a thing? Like, why do we sit here on the sidelines and have these amazing trucks that can do jumps that are, unthinkable?
Yeah.
And how come there's not some epic pre-runner edit at Supercross? Why not?"
Yeah.
And so that kind of was the last straw in our heads, because we had already planned to do flight school, but we're like, it's because nobody takes it seriously. Nobody takes it seriously. I understand you want to put, I-beams on a Ranger and go out and hit some jumps in Ocotillo or go to Glamis or whatever and do that stuff and, light off your gas bombs at night and do like old school Metal Militia stuff and you know what I mean? And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's not cool. That's definitely awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It's one of the side. It's a side thing that, I mean, it's a spectacle. I would watch people doing gas bombs and jumping their truck at night and being crazy and you know what I mean. And I think that if you're going to have sponsors and if you wanted to be on the big screen in Supercross, they're not going to take you seriously if you're out there doing that kind of stuff. Maybe if it's just they want to get eyeballs, but for the most part, when you see those mountain bikers and you see the snowboarders and you see whatever it is, even if it's like tennis or something like that, it's going to be polished, right?
Yeah.
So like, if it's not polished, then they're not going to take it seriously. You can't go to someone at Monster Energy or Supercross and say, "Hey, we want to put this edit up," and it's like just ragtag bunch of guys. And that's all it's been so far. And so we just said that was the last straw for us. We're just like, we're going to go do flight school, and that's what we're going to do. And the motivation for Doug was basically that all of the pre-runner content that we had seen was the same over and over. Just a short reel, mayhem, death and destruction and rolling trucks and, all that stuff. And we're like, what if we took a different perspective and made it more like cinematic and more polished content that was long form and
educational as well.
That was kind of like a side note of it. Because the way I approach stuff out in the desert anyways, that's just what I do.
Cool.
Like when I look for lines and stuff like that, I'm thinking about, angles and speeds and all that stuff anyways. And so I'm like, it would be cool to have, the majority of the serious content be like, how do you do this without the truck bucking or without sending it too far or, coming up short. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I mean, there's times in flight school where I'm like, geez, there was some gnarly situations.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to have a gnarly situation happen, I'd rather be in a mindset where I'm taking it seriously instead of a mindset where I'm just kind of like, hoping for the best and maybe the wind's blowing the right way today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's better to be in that mindset because you could pull yourself out of it if you're in that zone. If you're not in that zone, then you're basically guessing and you're just shooting and hollering shit and see if stuff will happen. Good for you or bad. And I don't know. So I wanted to be in that zone and so that was the motivation for Doug was, I just want to shoot epic content, cinematic epic content, and we want to do it in a different way. We want to have different music. We want to have a different setting.
Yeah.
We want to get out of here and we want to go to, we went to 5 different states over 5 different months.
Yeah.
And we shot some of the most epic pre-runner content that's on social media. At least I think. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion.
The locations and the truck is awesome. You're hitting on all of those elements,
Yeah, and that was our goal. And then, the music selection too. We didn't want metal music. We
Right.
didn't want thrash music. We weren't there to smash the truck into oblivion and you know, barely limp away and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're there to, I mean, if it was up to me, I would have greased every single jump and not had any sketchy moments and just had it just be the most epic thing ever. But
Right.
you know, so when you're doing that kind of stuff, things are going to happen too. So obviously we had a couple situations like, you know, in flight school one, in Swing Arm City where I came up short on a jump and it could have been bad because I was going really fast. And um, I mean, every single flight school there was something sketchy that happened.
Yeah.
Maybe not four. I don't think four. Ocotillo is my home stomping ground, so I know that place like the back of my hand. So it's
Yeah.
like, and I knew which jumps I was hitting and stuff like that. So it was gnarly big jumps in Ocotillo in flight school for, but I don't think anything sketchy happened. In Cinders, I almost hit a road sign. I was drifting on a logging road or whatever those roads are, the gravel roads, and man, I hung the rear end out a little too long and almost plowed into this 4x4 sign. It was a stout sign. It wasn't just like a sign that the truck would have just handled.
Yeah.
It would have destroyed the front of the truck and barely turned it back in time. And I don't even, still to this day, I don't know how I missed it. But
Yeah.
and then in Silver Lake, I came off there was a dune jump with like some whips before it or some rollers in the lip. And I hit one of the lips and it kicked me sideways. And then I went off the main lip. And then the whole truck went like this and
Oh,
rotated. And I landed, somehow got out of that one too. But,
Yeah.
and then I think Flight School 5, which was in Apex in Las Vegas, I got like 2 flats there. It was like the terrain was really, really gnarly. And then I think that transfer jump in Flight School 5 was the one that was like sketchy, but it was cool.
Yeah. You kind of coined this term freestyle pre-running. What is freestyle pre-running?
Freestyle Prerunning, it's on my shirt. It's right
There
there.
it is.
I feel like it's basically what I love to do, which is go out to the desert. And it's best if you haven't seen the terrain before. Like, it's one thing to go over some terrain that you know. It's the most fun when you don't know the terrain, like going to Swing Arm for the first time or going to Apex for the first time. Dunes, they're kind of predictable. Dunes are very, very predictable. So you could go to dunes anywhere and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They're really, you know, even and everything is blown just so. But when it's dirt and you got this cool terrain, like in Swing Arm, it's like sky's the limit for what you can think of. So how do you want to hit this stuff? You know,
Yeah.
it's like a skate park. It's basically, you know, like X Games skate park for trucks.
When you're going out, are you looking for like jumps or like corners into jumps, or you're just trying to like feel out the terrain, just like a freestyle mountain biker, you know, like you're
Yeah, I mean, you want to find lines that are creative, and it's hard in a truck.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think anybody like has coined that term. And it's not like we're out taking the truck out and doing backflips off of, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard, because there's not a lot that you can do. I mean, I've seen videos where they, you know, 50-50 grind stuff in vehicles, and then there is a guy that barrel rolled a truck and landed on his wheels.
Yeah.
I
love
don't
that
remember the
video.
guy's name, but it was a long time ago. And so there's things you can do. It's a lot harder in a truck because you got this, you know, 6,200 pound massive thing, and there's only so much you can do. So you have to get even more creative in your head. Like, what can I do that other people haven't done? And I think obviously the big jumps, like I'm always looking for like a natural 200 footer. I don't think I've actually hit it. If I have, I didn't measure it off. I've gone 180, I've gone, you know, 185 feet, 190 feet, just haven't broke the 200 foot on a natural jump. And that's another thing with freestyle pre-running to me. And this is just my own definitions. I'm not like, I'm not the end all be all of the dictionary of, you know, pre-running, but for me, freestyle pre-running is natural terrain, like speed metal and going to these jumps where everything's groomed with a tractor. It's like, it makes everything, it kind of sanitizes everything
Right.
to me. So it's like free riding.
Yeah.
You know, you got the moto guys that'll go and do like the X Games ramps and stuff like that. But there's a difference between the guys that'll do the X Games ramps and the guys that go out to Ocotillo to find gnarly stuff.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a difference between those two. Some
Yeah.
people will only hit X Games ramps and controlled situations, and with the airbag landing and all that stuff. And it's nothing against those guys. Those guys are gnarly too. They're doing heart attack upside down, hands off the seat and all that stuff. And so it's gnarly, and you want to have that controlled situation so that if anything, you're doing something that has a high chance of failure. So you want to have all those safety nets, and then so they're less likely to go out to Ocotillo and do that same trick on a natural jump.
Sure.
It just makes it more gnarly. So, but I feel like for me, freestyle pre-running is going out to the desert and finding lines, and it doesn't matter if you hit the line multiple times, and then you get it right on the 5th try or something like that, or you're able to get the most epic shot of that, whatever that is, whatever that line is. If you get it on the 5th try, then it's not like racing where you got to nail that corner perfectly every single time, and you got to do it the first time you've ever seen it. Like sometimes some races you can't pre-run, so you got to hit that corner as fast as you humanly can go and not screw it up, and still maintain speed and all that stuff. And so freestyle pre-running is a little more forgiving because of that, because you can hit that line. You can go out there in the morning, you can go out there in the afternoon, you can go when you feel it, you can go have a coffee and come back and get amped up for it, or whatever you want to do. But once you see the line, you want to get as creative as you can with it. So if there's anything off camber or something that'll make the truck do something that that hasn't been done before, that's kind of what I look for. Yeah, I mean, whoop sections are cool. Sometimes rhythm sections, if you can find a nice rhythm section where you can actually jump in, jump out of something. And a lot of times it has to do with the location. If it's a sanitized location like Ocotillo Wells, there's not much to see around there. It's just all it's blown out at noontime. The sun blows it all out. But if you're in swing arm, geez, I mean, as soon as you get that drone and you zoom back and you see everything around the truck, that's more of getting the epic shot.
Oh yeah.
We didn't want to just zoom in on the truck and just all you see is this orange truck and it's filling up the whole screen and the background's blurry and the truck's clear and you're like, where are you? What is going on?
Yeah.
We wanted to get I'm up on the knife edge, or
amazing shot.
Yeah, and we're
So
trying
cool.
we're trying to get those kind of shots. That's what we're shooting for. And sometimes the jump doesn't even have to be gnarly for it to look cool. I think it was location number 2 at Swing Arm where you go over this little hip and then you jump off the step down, and we just put some cinematic music to it, and it wasn't it wasn't huge, but it was still cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean that's the basic goal of it. And I don't know if freestyle pre-running is the perfect term for it. It's more like free riding. Dirt bikers say it's free riding.
Yeah.
And I've hung out with Cole Denny a couple times, and he's a amazing dirt bike rider. And yeah, it's free riding my truck is what I do, but that doesn't sound right. So you have to coin a term that rolls off the tongue. So.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely. And it's interesting because the term freestyle pre-running is fascinating to me because pre-runners are built usually to go pre-run a race.
Yep.
And not everybody is you're obviously not also racing a trophy truck or something, but you have built this incredible truck. So what do you go do with it? And you've chosen to kind of coin this term, create this whole series. And I think that's really cool that you have taken this thing that was designed to do one thing and you're evolving it into this next thing. Is there anybody else who else is freestyle pre-running? Who else is in your world?
I'm trying to think of people obviously Blake.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll do it. He can do it all.
For sure.
Nick Eisenhower does some side fun stuff, but he's a very serious racer.
Yep.
Darren will do fun stuff too. I mean, you could obviously tell that the higher race caliper people like the McMillans and all that, you don't see them doing reels of them playing around on the side. It would be cool if they did.
Yeah. Definitely.
But it'd be cooler if they were involved. But I would say it's crazy because people like Noah Explorer, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's been doing it for he's probably been doing it longer than anybody. Going out to the desert, finding jumps.
Yeah.
And so it's been a thing for the longest time. I don't want to take any credit for starting it or anything like that because I wasn't even driving trucks when Dirt Alliance and all those guys started, putting, sprung under kits on their Rangers and I-beams and cut and turn beams and doing like simple, the very first builds of these type of trucks. So I don't want to take any credit for it whatsoever because I wasn't even in the scene. I was riding my dirt bike. I was a dirt bike guy. So I got a Bronco 10 years ago, and I had that for 4 years, and then I sold that and got this. And so I'm fairly new to that scene, and I don't want anybody to think, oh, Paul's just taking all the credit for everything that we did back in the day. And the golden age of pre-running, like I don't want to step on anybody's toes there. Have I taken it to maybe the next level as far as the steps go? I would say yeah. You know what I mean? And I think there's some other folks that are up and coming that want to just have fun. And as far as the pre-running thing, like I have had some comments like you're not pre-running at all unless you're pre-running for a race. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. But it is a pre-runner. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah. What else do you call it? I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly. So I don't know what else to call it. If there was another term for it, I'd use it. But it's a truck that I want to go out and have fun with. And the number one goal is to have fun. It's a little hard to do when you're taking it so seriously, like with flight school and stuff. And so there is some pushback on that. Like, why are you so serious all the time? Like, why don't you just go out and like have fun? It's like I am having a lot of fun. It just seems like I'm not because I'm serious at the time. But
yeah,
I mean, you got to look at those mountain bike guys that are doing Red Bull Rampage. Like, are those guys having fun? They're probably having a lot of fun. But do you see them like messing around?
Not
no,
really.
I mean,
Locked in.
They're probably characters for sure, but like they're locked in. You know what I mean? And so the same thing with me. So it's more of it's more of a controlled adrenaline thing. You know what I mean? Than it is like a goofy.
Yeah.
If I was messing around, it would just be. I go out to the desert and have desert trips where there's no cameras around. So that's more like. But even then, I'm out there with my son, and we're like, oh, we could hit that at this angle and that angle, and so we're still finding lines and stuff like that, creative lines. But I think like James Hayes and the Boulevard Boys and those guys. I don't know if you know who they are, and they have a dirt bike background, but now they've been building trucks in their building. So those guys are gnarly. You got Wilkey 4Runner. He's got this 4Runner that's 4-linked, and he just hucks that thing off of jumps. So these are like up and coming guys, smaller guys that maybe not too many people know about, but I could see people taking the sport of freestyle prerunning a little bit more like it actually is a thing. And that's the thing too, is like, it seemed like in the past, like a lot of the racers would have sponsorships and stuff like that. And so I wanted to take it serious so the sponsors would start paying attention a little bit. Like, hey, this is something we could latch onto and make it, something bigger even. And the guys, I'm a civil engineer. My day jobs, I don't just drive my truck around for fun. I got to actually make money.
I was going to ask you, what is your regular job?
I'm a civil engineer, and I have a engineering stamp in the state of California. Passed the engineering exam back when I was like in my 20s, and so I have my stamp. And I worked corporate for a long time, and I couldn't work corporate anymore, so I just couldn't deal with the corporate day in day out. So I started my own company and just left corporate, and then now I just run my own company, just a one-man show. And I do grading plans and street improvement plans and water and sewer and storm drain. I design all that.
Awesome.
So I have an engineering background. Maybe that's why I take it like cerebrally as far as like the physics go with the jumps. You do have to have a little bit of before flight school, I just used my butt dyno. Like, how fast do I think I need to go? So I have a pretty good butt dyno anyways. But then when you throw the math into it too, it just makes it that much safer. To do gnarly stuff and not really like second guess yourself. Because you can trust the math a lot of times. You don't want to trust it all the way. Because actually in flight school 4 in Ocotillo, I trusted the math all the way. And the jump was too steep to hit it at that speed without bucking my truck. So that's when I nose dove and smashed the front end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was I was trusting the math too much. Because the jump was actually a 24-degree lip, and the math told me to hit it at 45, but I trusted the math. If I wouldn't have done the equations, I might have hit it slower, and then I probably wouldn't have bucked, but trusted the math a little too much, and then my truck like rebounded in the rear too much. But I didn't. I trusted the math over my butt dyno for a second,
Yeah.
for a split second, and then boom, front
Epic
end goes
shot.
into the ground.
Epic shot.
Yeah, yeah,
So sick.
yeah. So sometimes you got to be careful, and I'm learning. Like that was the first time I ever trusted the math before my butt dyno, and guess what? That's what happens. So you can't always just like trust the math, because the spreadsheet will take you up to 600 feet if you want to go to 600 feet and you want to do a 45-degree ramp and hit it at 200 miles an hour. Like the math will take you all the way to wherever you want to go, but there's reality, of what you can hit too. So
Lots of variables with
Yeah.
everything. How does freestyle pre-running evolve? Like, who do you want to see come into the sport, or are you trying to work on collabs with people for the next season?
Yeah, season 2 we had it. So getting back to the schedule of season 2, I think we touched on that. I had 5 episodes lined up for this spring with 5 different drivers, and we were going to have drivers on. You have to realize how hard it is just with a 3-man crew. If we had a 5-man crew, or like we had more filmers or more, it would be so hard. It's already hard enough with 3 people. And so adding that extra layer, it made me stressed out. But also the people that we had on, one had an issue with shock tuning in their truck. The next one was a dirt bike guy, and he was done for the free ride season, and he was going into competition mode. And so he had already switched his suspension over on his bike and done a lot of stuff to his bike. So he's like, I can't do it until next season, next free ride season, which is desert season. And then Doug got really sick. He was like sick for like 20 days or something. I was like, dude, what is going on? And he's like, I don't know. I think, I guess they told him it was COVID or something, but he was down for a really long time. So that ruined one of them. And then this last one, I blew the motor. We were planning on going. We were planning on going out here in a couple weeks. And then the 5th one, he has something super epic that he's doing, so he couldn't do it in May.
Gotcha.
And so by that time it'll be summer, and so I think it's happening for a reason. I mean, for all this stuff to happen, it's probably for a reason. So me and Doug just had a phone call, and we said, you know what, we're just going to take a step back. We're going to let it come to us. We're not going to force it. We're just going to let whatever happens with season 2 come to us a little bit more. Obviously, you have to reach out and grab it sometimes, but for now, we have to let it ride right now. We're just going to, so we do not have any content for season 2. It's a bummer. It sucks. The other thing that we don't have for season 2 is any sponsorship whatsoever. So, like I said, I'm a civil engineer. I'm not like an infinitely rich kind of guy. If I don't move my fingers on the keyboard, then no money gets made. So I got to be able to have that time to do that. And then I got to be able to afford, like flight school one, it was about $5,000 to $6,000 an episode. And that's just gas and food. And, I want those guys to not have to have any expenditures while we're out. So, and a lot of that time, I mean, they did get paid, but most of the time it was all just, for the love of the show. So, I mean, there was a little bit of payment there because I didn't want them to feel like it was 100% like free.
Sure.
So I just wanted to give them that smaller paycheck to where they're like, okay, I didn't do it for free, type of thing. So that if anybody asked them, they could say, yeah, we got paid to do that. It wasn't enough.
But with something so new, like you just have to start somewhere. And it's awesome that you found guys that are passionate enough about and see the vision, to actually make it happen. And I think you guys have a great body of work right now.
Yeah,
it's pitch
solid.
to the next thing. Like, I think there should be people that are excited about being a part of flight school for season 2. It's a cool thing, and to get more collaboration in from the off-road industry would only make it grow a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then it would also open up doors for, I mean, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm like 44 years old. So like, how long am I going to be able to do it? I try to stay in physical shape too and all of that, but like, age is going to catch up with you at some point. So like, if I was able to make flight school a thing, then maybe like, some of these younger guys that are in their 20s that have capable trucks that were out at Speed Metal that are, into this thing, and they don't race, they just jump trucks. Maybe they would have a better opportunity because they have something to look at to basically as a target. Like, hey, if I can do something like that, then, a sponsor that may have sponsored flight school will swoop in on them, and they're in their 20s and they got time.
Yeah.
And they're also, I mean, some of these guys are a lot more ballsy too. So,
Right.
you know, they might be able to do some stuff that's, you know, takes it to that next level.
Yeah.
And then the sponsors just keep rolling that way. Because those guys, I know, yeah, I have a couple of sponsors. I have Innovate Racing Wheels, PCI, Pro Bearing, Maxima Fluids. So I have, you know, for some of the items that are like usable items, the wearable items, it's good to have those.
Yeah.
I don't have any money sponsorships yet that would like, you know, say, oh yeah, you're gonna do flight school, we'll give you like 2,500 an episode or something like that. That'd be super helpful. But I don't have any of those. But I know that the guys that I'm talking about, like the Boulevard guys or some of those guys, they have zero sponsors. So it's like, even if they had a couple, you know what I mean, it would be helpful for them. And usually it's kind of like a momentum thing. You get one sponsor, and then they're like, whoa, he's sponsored by them, and then, you know, another sponsor will come on board because of that other sponsor. You know what I mean? When you have zero sponsors, it's hard to get that first one, and then but then they like, you know, I'm not saying that this is how it went, but like PCI might have been like, oh, Innovate sponsoring him, that's cool. Let's give them some radios for, you know, for flight school so that they can communicate while they're doing their, you know, filming or whatever. And so PCI has been awesome. I only want to work with sponsors that that know me and want to work with me, not ones that I'm like begging, like, you know what I mean? It just gets weird when you start begging for like, you know, this, that, and the other. So I only want people to recognize the value and then decide on their own behalf to like, you know what, we need to like get involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just better that way. It doesn't make me feel weird. It doesn't make me feel like I need to go take a shower.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd rather have it be organic, you know? So I don't push it. Like I'm not pushing it all the time. Like it is what it is. You know what I mean? We're putting out content. It speaks for itself. If you want to, you know, get on board, now's the time. If you don't, I understand too. So it doesn't, one way or another, like, you know, if we're going to do it, like I can figure out how to fund the next season. It's going to be more expensive. We already found out.
Yeah.
We did some numbers, and season 2 is more expensive than season 1. Just the way it works.
Yeah.
It really should be a, you know, $25,000 to $30,000 production for each episode. And that's not in the cards for me, but it'd be nice to be able to pay those guys their actual like media rates, like that's on their website. Like Dweezy's got a website with media rates, and it would be good to be able to like actually say, okay, we're scheduling the job, and this is what you're going to get paid, and you know, it's your exact rate that you want. Yeah, that's on your website. That's what you want to make. So now you know. And then it would also give me a little bit more latitude to be like, hey, Dweezy, what the hell? We didn't get the shot. I'm paying you good money here. No,
that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
But also, like, I'm involved in a lot of the. Me and Dweezy sat down and edited those episodes, both of us.
Nice.
Dweezy's like, I don't know if I could sit down with anybody else and have you look over my shoulder, and have anybody look over my shoulder while I'm editing.
Yeah.
He's like, but we were able to sit together and both come up with ideas. I think it ends up being a better product at the end of the day, because if you're just in your own head and you get the whole edit done and someone makes a comment like, oh, you should do this, you're already done.
Yeah.
You already like mentally turned off. So if you're in the middle of editing and someone says, maybe we shouldn't do it that way, maybe we should do it this way, it doesn't take much energy to shift and then like make it the way that it should be.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? But whereas if you have a polished product and then you say, okay, yeah, review this and make comments, then someone makes a comment, you're like, oh, I gotta go back, I gotta change the frames, I gotta do all this. It's like, it makes it so much harder. So yeah, me and Dweezy sat down for, I think it was 100 hours on episode 1.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
Oh yeah. It's cool though, dude. I mean, doing something collaborative like that is super fun, especially with something that is new to the industry. Yeah. Whether it gets hate or not, it's cool. Like you're doing something with the truck. Like the truck's designed to go do the things that it does, and you're going to like use it. So it's cool. What's the favorite location that you've done flight school at?
I would have to say Swing Arm City, hands down. I mean, that place is so epic, and that's where we were going in 2 weeks, and I was like super stoked to go. And then we were gonna go with a guest, which the guest would have been sick. But not in the cards, but it's the most epic place ever. It's just so far away. It's like 17 hours in the motorhome.
Yeah.
And it's worth the drive for me. It's just like, I don't know. You feel like a kid. Like you just show up and you're like, this is the place that I see on YouTube where Ken Block ripped his rally car and where,
yeah.
you know, countless people have done cool stuff, mostly dirt bike stuff.
Yep.
Mostly dirt bike stuff. And then you're just showing up with this truck that you know is capable,
Yeah.
but you have no idea like what you have in store. Like that feeling is amazing. Like just showing up with a tool that you know is gonna rip this terrain and no one's ever done. I mean, obviously, you know, with the rally car and everything, it's cool, but I've never seen a pre-runner out there.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one or two, and that's another thing. We shot Flight School 1 a lot. There was a long lead time before we released it,
Mm-hmm.
and we were very secretive about going there with a pre-runner.
Yeah.
Because we're like, if someone catches wind that we are going there with a pre-runner, they're just gonna go in the next month and shoot some like cell phone footage,
Put it up immediately.
and put it up on Instagram right away.
Yep.
And then they're gonna be like, and then when Flight School comes out, they'll be like, oh, they copied so and so. They just went out after he went out. It's like, no, we were there. And I don't have to be the first, blah, 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 but it's just, we know that there wasn't any epic content of pre-runners in Swing Arms. So we're like, we just didn't want anybody to cheapen it by like going out there and busting out an iPhone and like getting some cool clips of like
Yeah.
some jumps there. And they're like, oh, so-and-so went to Swing Arm.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then when we release Flight School, then we'd be like, you know, second fiddle.
Right.
Yeah. So we were very secretive about that one. After that, once we released that one, we're like, oh, we don't care now.
Sure.
Like people
Yeah.
can know.
Well, that's important, like building the hype, generating hype, because all like social media and content is just about getting eyeballs. And in order to make that happen, it takes a lot of planning like that. Like whether
Yeah.
you think it's dumb to be secretive or whatever, it's like that's the name of the game. That's what this business is like you have to generate views in
Yeah.
order for people to see what you're doing. So I think it's cool that you guys are planning out stuff like that.
Yeah, and people get blown out when they see the same thing over and over. So
Yeah.
you're going to immediately get 10% of the likes. If you do something new that no one's done, you're going to, and it just pops,
Mm-hmm.
then then you know you're going to do well. But then if you try to repost that same video again, everybody's going to be like, I seen that.
Yeah.
And then you get swiped.
Out of here.
And I don't want to beat it up and be like, oh, everything we do is for likes. Like that's not what we're doing either. We understand how it works,
Oh yeah.
but that's not our plan is to go, you know, oh, we're going to get 1,000 likes on this.
Yeah.
Like that's not our plan. Our plan is we know that we're on the right track and we just have to implement it properly. That's, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
We just want to make sure that we don't, because you can be on the right track and then not implement it properly. And then you're like,
Yeah.
well, we didn't take advantage of that. You know what I
Exactly,
mean? We had the opportunity, it was right in front of us, and we just like fell on ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
Just tripped over ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
So we didn't want to do that. So we were very careful in how we did that. And I think we did an okay job. I think, you know, everything could be done better, but
Mm-hmm.
we did an okay job at creating a little bit of hype. And I got really good feedback from the right people. I got you know, negative feedback from people that don't matter, and I got positive feedback from people that matter. So like I don't really care. Like it means
Yeah.
that I'm doing the right thing.
Even if you got negative feedback, that means that they were engaged in the content,
Yep.
and that's a win.
Exactly.
It means you got the
Got 'em
the
talking.
engagement, and you got them talking about the project that you were passionate about. And it's clear the passion comes through in the content. So it's cool. Is Swing Arm City also like where you've done your favorite jump or feature, or is that another location?
I would say Ocotillo. I know
Okay.
it's my home desert, so I've hit those jumps before, but Ocotillo was just insane because I was comfortable.
Uh-huh.
Like Swing Arm, it's like I've never been there before. I don't know what the dirt does.
Mm.
There's obviously a lot of cool shots there, but Ocotillo, like the big air jump at Ocotillo, the one that's like the thumbnail for the video, like
Yeah.
that is insane. The feeling I had when I completed that one, I was like, dude. And then the devil slide jump to the landing. I mean, that was cool too,
Mhm.
because I've only done that like one other time with no cameras, and I just knew I could do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a good feeling when you go to your home desert and like just tear it up, and it's all cinematically done, and
Yeah.
like I can go back and watch that whenever I want and like smile, you know.
That's awesome. How long have you been going to the desert? Like, did you grow up? Like, you were a kid going up?
Yeah, I mean that's a long story. I had a CT-70 three-wheeler when I was 3 years old, so it's like 1984.
Awesome.
And then when I in third grade, I got a XL80, Honda XL80 that was like a street legal bike that had like Didn't even have plastics. It had like steel side panels and stuff. I got that in 3rd grade. And we were living in Trona at the time, which is out by Death Valley. My family was living out there for a couple of years, and then we moved to Julian, right here next to Ramona. And then I had a lemonade stand when I was a kid in Julian, and I made $1,300.
Wow.
And I bought a
my
KX80.
Is that the most successful lemonade stand that's ever
Yeah,
ever
I
been?
made $1,300, and I bought a 1991 KX80, and that was my first like actual sporty bike, because like my dad bought me the XL80, and I was like, oh, this thing's kind of like a turd. But I was only in 3rd grade. Whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have any money. Like, so I got that KX80, and that was like through like junior high and stuff like that, and I messed around with that. I used to jump that thing like pretty big. We set up a steel ladder with a piece of wood on it, and I just remember launching that thing. There was no reason why I should go that far on that bike, but yeah, I turned out fine. Then I seized that bike, and I couldn't afford to put a new motor in it, so I think my dad put a new motor in it, and then I had to sell it to pay my dad back. So that whole bike it was like, oh God.
Yeah.
So that was my first taste of like just money involved in off-road. And then I went all the way through high school with nothing. Like, we used to go to Ocotillo a couple times, but my dad was a street bike guy. So
Okay.
he didn't really like we didn't have like trailers and go to the desert. My dad did. If I went to the desert, it was like with friends, family.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of Ocotillo, and then when I went through high school, and then obviously when I got done with high school, I was like, I need to focus on college right now so I can get my degree in civil engineering and like do all that. So I just like went straight underground and like just nose to the grindstone and just did all that when I was like, 18 to 23 or something. I just literally just disappeared and just focused on getting that, because I knew I needed that just to do what I wanted to do. And so I did all that, and then I got a YZ 450F. That was my first like high horsepower bike. 2004 YZ 450F, and I would go out to Glamis and put a paddle tire on it. Did a lot of Glamis, like not much Ocotillo, mostly paddle tire stuff in Glamis. And then I got a KX 500 2-stroke, gnarly bike, more paddle stuff, more dune stuff.
Hell yeah.
Once I had my own stuff, and I'd go to the desert all the time, it was just like a lot of Glamis stuff with the bikes. And I remember we would talk trash about Ocotillo Wells, even though it's like my stomping grounds now.
Yeah.
We would be like, oh, the dunes is where it's at, got to have a, high horsepower bike and a paddle tire. There's nothing like it, there was nothing like it. It was awesome. But yeah, then just got a little older. I had a couple crashes under my belt on the dirt bikes, and I was like, I was looking at Race Desert, and I knew nothing about people that would take out stock Rangers and people that would put lift kits on and go out. I knew nothing about that, because I was just stuck on my dirt bikes, working on my dirt bikes and all of that. And I knew nothing about off-road really, just dirt biking. And then I started looking at Race Desert, because like my buddy here in town, he was racing with like the Snore series. I think it was like, I went out to a couple of races and like pitted with him like 15 years ago, and he was racing like Laughlin and some of those races, and I was like, then I started looking at Race Desert, like the classifieds. I'm like, oh no, here we go. I'm gonna be in for it now. I saw this 4-link Bronco that had 4 seats, and I had 2 kids at the time, and I was like, this would be cool. Like, so I went down to El Centro and picked that thing up. I think it was like 20 grand. It was like, it was set up for 20 grand. I was like, this is insane. And so I immediately bought a 2-wheel I-beamed 4-linked Bronco.
Awesome.
And I went out to jump it right away. I remember I was like, let me get this thing off the ground.
Yeah.
And I jumped it, and I probably got 2 feet of air, 3 feet of air. I'm like, I don't know how this can do that. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, this is like mind blown.
Yeah.
3 feet of air in my Bronco. I'm like, this is insane. You can get off the ground in a vehicle. Yeah, it just stuck after that. I had a Husky 501. I sold that when I got the Bronco. I'm like, all right, I'm into off-road now.
Awesome.
So
That's
yeah,
rad.
had the Bronco, took it out to the desert a bunch, ended up rolling that, which is my only vehicle rollover. I've had a lot of street accidents that I've been in, super gnarly street accidents, and it was unfortunate stuff. But that was my first like desert like accident. I was like, dude, and I was only going like 25 miles an hour, and plopped the thing over, and it did so much damage. It was like unbelievable how much damage it did.
Yeah.
And we were lucky too, because in a Bronco you have the filler neck is inside the cab, so the fuel cell's inside the cab in the back. It's supposedly all wrapped up, but the filler neck comes out, and it comes out the fender in the back.
Yeah.
And there's a cap, obviously. And when I rolled, I slammed that cap on the ground so hard that it sheared the filler neck inside the cab. And then there was a full tank of gas draining inside the cab.
Yeah.
And so that was like an eye opener to me. I was like, and it smelled so much like gas, like one spark, and that thing would have been up so fast, and we wouldn't have been able to get out. Because I was down on the window. I was like between the window and the ground, and I'm just like, I couldn't believe I just rolled it. And I was kind of out of it, like not thinking like I need to get out right away. Like, cause I don't know, that was like 10 years ago. Like everybody knows to get out right away, but I kind of laid there for a second, like, what in the hell did I just do that for? And, but then the gas situation, I was like, dude, that scared the crap out of me, cause the fumes were so strong that like it wouldn't have needed to have gasoline to be on fire. Like all the air would have been on fire.
Yeah.
And then, we didn't have fire suits on. We didn't have helmets. We had no protection, nothing.
Yeah.
We were just out in the desert. So, but then that was my first taste of fabrication shops, because I took it to a fab shop, and it was there for 3 years. So, and that, it just is what it is, you know, and people complain about fab shops, but I knew, I mean, I was frustrated, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to talk trash about the fab shop, because like, I just know how it is. Like, you take on work, you know, a small project comes in, you do that first, and then you go back and work on the long project, and you know what I mean? You shuffle things around. So I totally get it. It's no dig, but that was my first, like, oh man, this is like, when you go down, you go down hard. Do you guys know the story about this truck?
No. What's how did this start?
Yeah, so I was like, if I ever see a center mounted, because I had I-beams at the time on the Bronco, and I was like, if I ever see a center mounted four seat truck, I'm buying it. And I'm like, I saw one pop up on Race Desert. I'm like, it's kind of beat. I'm like, it's a little bit too beat, you know, I don't want to like get into a project. So I was like, okay. And I just kept being patient and still drive my Bronco. After I got it back from the fab shop. Then I see this thing on Race Desert Classifieds, and it was the day that it got listed. I was on the toilet, and I was like, I dialed the number while I was on the toilet, because I'm like, I'm not going to let this thing sit on Race Desert. This thing's way too sick.
Yeah.
And so I called Chris Livingston, who's well known in the off-road community with everything. I called him and I said, can I come look at the truck? And I want to look at it today.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I get off work at 4, just come down. And he was in La Mesa area. He's like, come down and check it out. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go down there and I look at it. I was like immediately like, oh my God, this is it. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, okay, Chris, I don't know what you need for this. Like, I don't have all the money right now, but I can give you a hefty down payment right now, and then we can work out the rest after I sell my Bronco. I was like, I'm gonna need to sell my Bronco.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, we can do that. So gave him a hefty down payment, didn't sell the Bronco. And then he got to a point where he's like, all right, family's leaving out of town. We got to sell it. This is your drop dead date. You got to have the rest of the money by this date.
Yeah.
Didn't sell the Bronco still. So then I was like, I started engineering. I went down to my office. I'm like, I was calling clients. I was like getting projects and like invoicing, and like I had like a month, and I made the rest of the money and I paid him.
Yeah.
And I still had the Bronco and the truck. But this truck was, so Chris Livingston's wife, her brother was Bruce Brunk, and he started this build with Dirt King in 2019, 19-ish. And he's my age. And he was, I would say, like halfway through the build, maybe like a little more than halfway through the build, and he got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so the off-road community came together and made a GoFundMe called One Last Ride. And I think the Eisenhowers were involved, the Ewing brothers, the Wings World.
Yeah.
And Danny Giannini, some other folks, they all kind of came together, and there was some donations with the One Last Ride thing.
Yeah.
And they all came together and finished the truck.
Wow.
And then he got to drive it. I got goosebumps. He got to drive the truck.
Incredible.
before he passed, and there was some time there where they were like, he's not doing well in the hospital, and we need to like get this truck done now so that he can drive it.
Yeah.
So there's video of him jumping in the driver's seat and driving it, and he had like kids and a wife and all that
Yeah.
stuff. He's my age, and so same position in life that I was in at the time. It just kind of hit me kind of hard, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't negotiate on the price, just whatever they listed for. I didn't negotiate down. I just paid what they wanted, and it all worked out. But it was a bummer. He ended up passing away, and then the family moved, and that's when they were moving across country to where her family was.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be closer to her family. So that's where they needed the money.
Yeah.
So I got all the money, and then the truck wasn't really completed. It was drivable,
Yeah.
but there was no bypasses on it. It was IBPs.
Mhm.
It was set up for bypasses, but there was IBPs on it.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot. I took it to the desert for the first time. It caught on fire.
Oh man.
Yeah, that truck caught on fire. The push locks came like shooting off the transmission.
Oh.
And then the transmission fluid hit the headers and it went up. And then we had to put it out with actual extinguishers, and it burned up the engine bay pretty good. But it's just all the wiring was smoked.
Yeah.
Everything else was still good, but the wiring, and so I had to like almost rewire that. Truck's been wired 3 times anyways, and these trucks are insane. Like, if I knew now back then, I wouldn't have got involved.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, but like if I would have known how big the money pit was
Oh yeah.
at the time, because
Yeah.
I had that same thing that everybody thinks. It's like you buy the truck and then you're good to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not, buying the truck is the cheap part.
Yep. Yep.
So you can go on Race Desert and you can buy your $60,000 truck, but if you don't have another 60 or another 100,
Yeah.
you're going to be selling that thing pretty quickly,
Yeah.
you know? So, but if I would have known it was going to be like that, like I'm very conservative with that. So I don't know if I would have ever got into it at all. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
I'm glad I just kind of like jumped into the deep end because yeah, I don't think I would have done it. I would have just been like, oh, this is going to cost me $500,000 over the next 4 years. Like, meh, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, there's a lot of money that goes into it, especially if you want to keep it operational at a high level.
Right.
It's got to be, you don't quite have to have that race schedule,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to not let stuff go sideways. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because, you know, if you don't have the money and you bring your truck back from the desert and you're like, it's leaking over there and it's got, you know, a broken bolt over here and like, it's good for next time. And then you just throw it back on the trailer and you go out and beat it up again and
Yeah.
it'll turn into a pile pretty quick. So you have to stay up on it. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had a lot of help, like with Nick. Like none of this would be possible without Nick here,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to go down and I have another office on this property down on the other side of the property. I have to go down there and work.
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm gonna be in here until 1-2 a.m. Like I'm not. I got family life. Like I have a life that I want to keep like the way I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be too much of a sacrifice for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it. So without Nick Ewing here, I just wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way. Like the truck would slowly just like it needs stuff done and it would just fizzle out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So super helpful. He gets paid for his work, but for him to keep up his motivation on it and keep up with it and be a part of the team, he's a really good friend of mine and it's been insane. Like the willingness to step up to the plate. It's insane. So I really appreciate that. And he's comes from the drifting background.
Okay. Cool.
So he's torn cars all the way down to nothing and put them all back together. So he has a really good background. It's perfect, and he enjoys off-road now instead of drift. I mean, he still likes drifting. He
Yeah.
talks about drifting all the time, and actually, he'll get in the truck and tell me tips from drifting, like how to drive the truck. And I've
Oh, there you
gotten
go.
better at driving because he'll say, you know, this is what I need you to do,
That's cool.
and then I test it out, and he's like, oh, that was pretty, you know, good, but you need to like be smoother with it or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
So I actually get the truck. When I first got the truck, I was super scared to get it sideways because that's how I roll my Bronco.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I'm never gonna get this thing sideways again. Why? I don't need to get it sideways. It's like just for fun. Like it doesn't need to get sideways.
Yeah.
And then, so I've just been slowly getting into getting it sideways again. I'm like, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have this other project here.
Oh yeah.
That's modeled very similarly, style-wise, to your truck, but it's wildly different. What is this thing?
It started as a stock Scion IQ with just regular stock tires, and I actually took it out the first day and I jumped it with just stock everything. And I was
Awesome.
like, because I just had this idea. I'm like, well, people were doing smart cars, and I'm like, I I I don't know if I want to do what everybody else is doing because everybody was kind of doing smart cars. So I was
Mhm.
like, what if I do I'll find another small car. So I just started Googling and I'm like, oh, Scion has a IQ that's like just as small and it has a back seat and I got 2 kids. So like it's a commuter car with a back seat. I'm
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
we can go to the desert with this thing. And like, so I jumped it with stock tires and I have video of that. I got like this high off the ground, but I still jumped it.
Yeah,
All 4 tires were off the ground. And then
very important.
and then I'm like, well, it just needs like bigger balloon tires and like, you know what I mean? So it can like handle some bumps and, holes in the ground.
Yeah,
So then I was like, well, what's like the smallest rim that will fit around the brake caliper so that I can get the smallest rim I can get on this thing so I can get as much tires as I can get on the
Yeah.
thing. Because I needed sidewall because the stock tires were like the run flats or whatever.
Sure,
the
yeah.
Zero sidewall. So then I found the right tire, I found the right rims,
Mhm.
and then I also I was looking for like lift kits for it
Yeah,
to get it off the ground a little bit. So I
Yeah.
found like a bolt-on lift kit for it,
yeah.
and took it down to SoCal Suspension. They put the lift kit on it, put the tires on it, and I actually took it to Speed Metal 1, and I did the desert course in Speed Metal 1 with it. And there's a funny video of the crowd or the guy that was filming reacting as I'm going through the whoops with it. He's like, Jesus, that thing boogies, and I'm like hauling ass through the speed metal. I caught a forerunner. I had a 30-second gap between me and a forerunner.
Yeah.
That was in the sketchy dudes class, and I'm like, I'm catching this dude. I don't care what I have to do. He's got 30 seconds on me. I'm catching this dude, and I hunted him down over the 4 miles of the desert course and
Yeah.
passed him right at the very end. I was like, dude, it was like a better feeling than the truck stuff. I was like, that is insane.
It's so crazy.
So,
Yeah.
but with this thing, the CVT transmission was terrible for off-road,
Gotcha.
and it's connected to a cooler that's also connected to it cools there's one cooler it's not connected in the middle, but it shares a cooler with the engine coolant. So it's like this big circulating thing. And the CVT was getting so nuclear hot that it was like overheating the engine. The engine probably would have been fine. It's a Toyota. It could last forever. But
Right.
the CVT was overheating the engine.
Wow.
And then the engine finally gave out. And then me and Nick, that's kind of like when Nick first started with me. We were just in his shop and we did a compression test. We're like, the engine's toast. Like, I'm like, well, a new engine's $3,600 for this thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I'm like, there wasn't a lot of options. And I was like, I kind of want to just get a rally car. I'm like, it was fun. I want to get a rally car. And there's no real place where you can buy a rally car in the States. I think there's like European stuff.
Yeah.
They have classifieds in Europe. But there's no real like place that you can go and like find a grip of rally cars that are used and ready to be purchased, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, it's too hard to make a custom chassis and like put a Hayabusa motor in there and
Sure.
like it's like way too hard to do all that stuff. Like, so what about like a side-by-side chassis and it's already there and it's 4-wheel drive and it's ready to go? And I'm like, yeah, but the razors kind of suck. They got a CVT as well and the belts blow and so I was like, well, what's the best like side-by-side for it to be a car? And the YXZ was like perfect because I had the sequential shift and the clutch.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to be able to like be in a car and it's almost like rally because I'm sequentially shifting it and I can clutch whenever I want.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's basically perfect. So then I started doing some AutoCAD drawings with setting the body over the YXZ and I'm like, I think it's gonna work. and it almost looks exactly like the original rendering that I just like basically cut out and like put in CAD and set it on there. And so I don't know, it's stupid, but it's so much fun to drive. Like once you get in that thing, it's like insane. The only thing that sucks is there's no AC in there right now, so it's like really, really hot, and we got to figure out heat management in that thing.
Gotcha.
We're gonna figure that out, but right now it's just fun to drive. It's just insane, like how fun it is to drive and how ridiculous it looks from the outside.
It looks so funny, dude. It's awesome. It's so fun.
I mean,
It's rad.
yeah, it doesn't jump well, and the YXZs it never have, and so people expect like All American Cinder is gonna be jumping that thing like to the moon, but
Yeah.
it really like bucks a lot, and maybe we can figure out the suspension geometry or the tuning.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if I want to dump too much more money into it. It was a lot of work for Nick to do and a lot of money.
Yeah.
But right now it's drivable and it's a lot of fun. So speed metal, it handled it pretty well, and it didn't break like the truck did. So it's a good second vehicle to have. I don't know. If like if I were to sell it, like I don't know if anybody would. It would just be weird. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. I have to keep it forever, I guess
Definitely.
now, because
Yeah, you
who's gonna
do.
drive that thing?
Yeah, that thing's awesome, man. That's rad.
So
That's
yeah, and
so
it
sick.
also is like it's a yin and a yang for like if everybody thinks I'm way too serious of a guy, and I don't have enough fun because I'm so serious in my truck.
Yeah.
Well, then I just point to that and be like,
Yeah. Like, yeah. How serious do you
look
think
at
I
it.
am? Look at
How
this thing.
serious do you
It's
think
just
I am?
ridiculous. It's awesome. Do you have anybody that you kind of looked up to in the off-road industry? It seemed like you were really into dirt bikes, so maybe it was dirt bike. And then is there anybody who really inspired you?
Yeah, I think when I grew up, it was like Krusty Demon stuff with the dirt bikes, and that's more ragtag, like the pre-runner style of
Sure.
2005. And
Yeah.
so I'd look at those videos, Travis Pastrana and all that, and I
Yeah.
was like, dude, these guys are insane. Like, so like X Games, like I was at X Games 1 in San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
like, so like the X Games athletes. And then once I got more and more into like the actual niche of like off road, then it was, I'm like looking at Blake, like, dude, the guy's unbelievable driver.
Yeah.
And then when I see Nick Eisenhower go take laps, I'm like, this is a different thing. Like nobody's driving like that. Like when he takes a lap at speed metal, you're like, you just have to sit there and watch. Like pull your truck over and just watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he just drives it different. And then Ken Block, obviously, with his videos and
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. Ken Block, yeah. I mean, I saw him on the Fantasy Factory with Rob Dyrdek, and I'm like, this guy's out of control. And he can just like drive like a madman.
Yeah.
So it's just all those same. I guess it would be the same types of people that everybody kind of looks up to.
Mm-hmm. Who would you love to go freestyle pre-running with? Like, what's the top guy that you want to go out and
Um,
go drive with?
I'd probably say like Lauren Healy.
Oh yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
because he's a really good driver too, and he's part of that Fun Haver group. That
Mm-hmm.
obviously he's not just a racer; he's an excellent racer, unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he races like 6 classes.
He can drive anything.
King of the Hammers.
It does-
He's getting like 6 cars.
Doesn't even matter what it is; he can
Yeah.
drive it. And the cool thing about how he drives is he does push it really hard, but like he knows how to take that stock Bronco they have or whatever. It's like the stock class Bronco.
Yeah, yeah. The
He knows how
Everman
to take
Challenge
that
guy.
through
Yeah.
terrain like quickly without breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like with the Scion. What I was doing is like I'd have to get through the same terrain everybody else is getting through,
Yeah.
but like not break the vehicle. So I don't know. He just has a really good way of doing that. And then he likes to have fun outside of the racing. So it would be cool. I would probably just be I'd have imposter syndrome. Be like, how did I get here? How am I freestyle pre-running with Lauren Healy? But I think that would be like pretty cool to do.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him hit massive jumps in that Bandito thing, and
Oh yeah, that thing's awesome. That thing looks so cool.
yeah, so I think that would be it. But I actually enjoy going out with the smaller guys, like the Boulevard guys or Jorge, the guy with that Toyota, the
Mhm.
old school Toyota that was
Yeah.
at Speed Metal. Going out with those guys, like they're just more my speed.
Mhm.
It's not really polished, but I got to show Jorge all my jumps, well, not all of my jumps, but a lot of some of my more fun jumps out in Ocotillo Wells.
Yeah.
And I just got to do that like a couple weeks back, and it was just a lot of fun in the afternoon, just showing them, hey, check out this jump, just hit it at 45, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And like it looks like you wouldn't necessarily just go out and do that, but if I'm there and I've already hit it, then it's like he can just hit it right away, and he doesn't have to feel like weird.
Yeah.
If he was out there with other friends, they'd be like, oh, that's a gnarly jump, and they'd have to like think about it, and then maybe do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm there, I can show him and say, hey, show him the ropes, and then he's like, and then it's just more fun for him because he can just rattle off some jumps, and he's like, dude, I'm just ripping up the desert,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love doing it. It's unbelievable.
Well, yeah. What's next for Paul Fisher here?
Well, you did say that these are pre-runner trucks. They're meant to pre-run, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And you said that this thing's set up for freestyle pre-running as best as it can be set up for freestyle pre-running. I have plans to do a 2.0 truck.
Okay.
And I'm going to start in CAD, and I'm going to stay in CAD as long as it takes to get it right in CAD before I even think about putting 2 pieces of metal together. So it's going to be, I guess it would be what I would consider to be like the first freestyle pre-running truck.
Okay. Awesome.
I can't say 100% if it's going to happen. It's just an idea in my head right now,
Yeah.
and might not have the financial capability to do it. But I do have the engineering wherewithal to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's going to be digital for a long time before it becomes. But it's going to be gnarly. It's going to do more than this truck will do, and it'll be able to take more punishment without braking. This thing's got 19 inches of front travel and 28 inches of rear travel, which actually, if you compare that to a trophy truck, is like not that much.
Yeah.
So, people obviously think that I probably have these crazy travel numbers on the truck, but I really don't. So just look out for if that one comes to fruition and I can actually financially afford it to bring it together, the travel numbers will be insane on that thing. It's going to be very reliable. It's going to be simple. I'm not going to have it be complicated. I'm not going to have it be, it'll be as pretty as this truck is. But, when you look at this truck compared to like a Morgan Clark truck or something like that, like this truck it's a pig with lipstick. It'll be that simple, nice build, but it's not going to be overcomplicated. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. It's going to be as simple as it can be. We're going to simplify everything as much as we can. I don't want any complications. And I want it to be reliable, super strong, and I don't care about the weight. I don't care about the wheelbase. All the things that everybody's like, oh, you got to have a rear cell, you got to have a wheelbase of 125 inches, you got to be under 6,500 pounds. I'm throwing all that out the window. That doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? There's things that do matter on these trucks. Putting a big race bumper on the front.
Yeah.
That's for doing freestyle prerunning. That's the last thing you want.
Right.
You want no bumper. You want your tires to hit first no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be open wheel because that's not a truck.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, the approach angles are going to be such that if you come down nose heavy, no metal is going to hit the ground.
Yeah.
Because why? You don't need that bumper out there. You're not hitting other trucks and you're not nerfing anybody. So like, I'm probably saying too much, but these are the ideas that are running through my head.
That's cool. That's cool. I like it.
And from what I'm learning, failure mechanisms of these trucks. If you have a big bumper sticking out 8 inches in front of your grill, you can only hit the ground at a 30-degree angle or a 45-degree angle before you go over.
Yeah.
Because that bumper's going to catch you going over.
Yep.
But if you have no bumper, you never catch, and you could literally nose wheelie the truck as far as you want until you get corrected. You'd have to literally flip the truck forward for you to go over, and that's the last thing you want to do is go over in one of these things. So, I just think that travel numbers are important, and geometry of falling out of the sky in different angles, that's important too. Like you want to be able to fall out of the sky at a really weird, awkward angle and still have the truck come back down and do what it needs to do. Same thing with going this way. Like if you come down this way, like what do you need a rear bumper for?
Right.
Why? So, but it still needs to look like a truck. So you got to like give or take. But for the most part, like you don't want metal hitting the ground. You want tire hitting the ground. And I'm thinking like 42-inch tires too, instead of 40s.
All right.
So like you want a bunch of tire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then you're going to land where you belong. You want width too. So
that's exciting, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I haven't told anybody about this, by the way.
All right.
Well, Nick knows about it.
Yeah.
But it's only because I'm dreaming.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I think it's awesome to see somebody doing something different in the sport and expanding what is capable in off-road, because this is a small industry. The off-road world is very small because it's hard to get to, or it's hard to watch, or there's a lot of variables on why our network is so small. But it's cool to see people doing things that are different to try to push it out to more people.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of have imposter syndrome because it's an industry that's been around for a long time, and everybody thought maybe that everything had already been explored, and and there was nothing new that was going to happen. Obviously the all-wheel drive trophy trucks, they're insane.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff is new stuff. Those are on the tippy top level of engineering and performance for trophy trucks, and that's always going to be pushed. But this is like a totally different branch of the tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's not the top of the tree. It's like just some weird branch that's growing off to the side.
But that's okay, man. It's okay. And I feel like you should just, own your space. And maybe you don't call it your space, but own the thing that you're doing, and it will continue to grow on, the things that you got going
Especially
on.
if it's not ridiculous. Because there's people that'll go out there and own something that you're just like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously this thing, but
Yeah, I was gonna say.
but like if you know that it's like if you know that 99% of the people that look at it are gonna be like, dude, that's gnarly or that's cool or that's whatever, then you know you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? As long as you know you're on the right track and most of the people are thinking it's cool and the other people are just jealous, then you're doing the right thing.
Keep doing your thing, man. That's awesome.
I ain't stopping until I'm on a Supercross edit on the big screen.
There you go.
So, because me and Dweezy thought about that over 2 years ago, so I'm not gonna stop until they put some pre-runner edit up there. It doesn't even have to be me. It could be somebody else. I don't care. I just want to see a pre-runner at Supercross.
Love it, man. Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, I probably talk too much.
Oh, no
About
worries. I
too
mean,
much.
this is a podcast. We're here to hang out and talk about the industry. It's
No, I'm
fun.
glad you guys made the trip up here to Ramona. I really appreciate all the fans out there that actually do appreciate the content that we're putting together. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work. I do appreciate you guys. I'm not like abundantly rich, so I know that some people think that I have a blank checkbook for all this stuff, but I'm just a dude that has my own personal job, and I spend a lot of money on what I like to do, but
Yeah.
but it's not infinite. It's not like I got medium pockets.
Medium pockets. I like it.
So
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate you taking the time.
all right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe and let us know in the comments who you'd like to see us talk to next.